It's my Wiggins beard. I made fun of Wiggins a lot earlier this year, but it was mostly because he seemed aimless and confused about his season goals. I was pretty impressed with his work at Roubaix, but then he showed up to Tour of California, won the time trial, and cruised to overall victory. Of course, I guess top 10 at a Pancake Flat Classic and winning the overall on a relatively hilly stage race is still kind of confused as far as an actual season plan goes, and apparently Wiggins isn't even on Sky's Tour de France roster yet, but it's better to be aimless and good than aimless and not. I mean, let's not forget how things were going for Wiggins around this point last season.
Bradley Wiggins, what a mess with the final fall. What's your assessment?
Dog shit.
By the way, did anyone else notice that John Degenkolb with his on-bike camera lost by inches again in the final stage at California? I'm telling you, Vrooman and Leonard Zinn are just inches away from writing that cameras make you lose op-ed. Or maybe the opportunity here is for Specialized to make its own action camera and say it's super aero, but then not take on Giant's action camera when the company proposes a wind tunnel test. There's probably also a lawsuit joke in there somewhere, but what Shimano ought to do with its new action camera is put it on Kirsten Wield's bike. She's still Team Giant Shimano after all, and I don't think clamping a Panaflex to her handlebars would have created a results-relevant aero disadvantage during her win at Tour of Chongming Island. The Tour of Chongming Island World Cup race, that is, not the stage race with the same name. From the looks of the UCI's video, it seemed like a pretty burly sprint, with Wild having to improvise a lead-out after a late crash. Probably would have made pretty good footage. Wiggle Honda's been turning out videos all year, and their Chongming Island edition caught this great team car clip from Emily Collins.
That is sitting on everything we do.
Whoa.
Everything. It's a joke. They all think they're gonna beat Will.
Yeah, pro tip, you're not gonna beat Wild. Collins' Wiggle Honda teammate Giorgia Bronzini was arguably the second strongest sprinter in the field, so if her team is trying to animate, that ought to tell you something about what's gonna happen if the whole group arrives at the line together. Also, did anyone else notice that there were marquee events happening last weekend in China, California, and Italy?
Achievement unlocked. Mondialization.
Or is it? Let's consider the Giro d'Italia. The Giro is a bike race in Italy, but if you're watching from the US, you probably haven't seen it, and that's kind of a problem. Perhaps you've noticed my shirt. It is a Ted King piece from Cutaway Clothing. There are multiple links in the description, and while it proclaims the somewhat disappointing truth that I am not, in fact, world-famous professional cyclist Ted King, it is an American-made shirt from an American company promoting an American rider on a team sponsored by and riding a bike made by yet another American company. The fact that such a thing is even possible should speak volumes, but since this is the era of big data, let's use some numbers too. 5 of the 18 Pro Tour squads ride bikes from American firms, more than any other nation. California-based Specialized, with its 3 teams, is the largest single World Tour bikes provider. The US is the country of registration for 3 World Tour squads, tied for the most with France, and if you factor in that the Dutch Belkin squad is sponsored by yet another US firm, nearly half the sport's highest level is directly supported by the US market. But when Rigoberto Uran and his Omega Pharma Quick-Step S-Works won today's time trial, taking the Giro lead from Cadel Evans of US-registered BMC, if I had wanted to watch that here in Connecticut, I would have had to have bought a new long-term contract, waited for some guys to come to my house and put up a dish, explained to my landlord why there's now a dish on an apartment I'm moving out of in 2 months, and worst of all, face the wrath of the Neighborhood Homeowners Association. Oh, right, and it would double my monthly TV bill. Yes, I'm sure there are thousands, millions of Americans who would be inflicting this massively arduous process on themselves. If only there weren't dozens of jerky, low-resolution clips on YouTube showing the last few kilometers of every stage. Urgh. In fact, I bet there are even still some people who, despite being on a provider that could get them access to the one extremely obscure channel that provides US Giro coverage, still won't take the plunge. Why would you settle for the comfort of your couch and HD display when you can watch on YouTube with that little bit of Russian malware just cropped off the edge of the picture? Well, good thing Base 79, the Giro's rights management organization, filed takedown requests against all those YouTube videos earlier this week. And, you know, some other videos that maybe brought a little bit more than just race coverage to the table. So I'm sure this weekend's viewership and ad revenue numbers for the Giro are gonna be huge, right?
No.
By the way, which major tech advances were launched at the Giro this year again? None? You're telling me instead they came at some upstart 8-year-old race halfway around the world? I wonder if that had anything to do with the fact that the sport's most economically important audience could simply fire up a browser and watch. I'm Cosmo Catalano, and that was the week in bike.